Welcome to Medicine with the Metals. I'm Mark, and this is Michelle. Join us on our psychedelic journeys. Wow, what an amazing week, Michelle, huh?
Yeah, it's been a very cool week for us. We have moved as a family. Our podcast has moved into our new studio, as you can see.
It's building up too, you know?
It's really building up. We've got 2 mini podcasts coming out. Let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah, to the too many podcasts. I think we're doing these daily doses, which is they're involving a lot of the community, and we're doing these psychedelic stories, and you'll be hearing more about that as we venture into these podcasts. They'll be at the end of these podcasts and usually in the middle, but it's going to be talking a lot about people's psychedelic journeys, how it's benefited them, or, not even about their psychedelic journeys. It can be about anything in this holistic healing space. And we need more of that, a matter of fact.
Yeah, that's right. We've put it out there on the Facebook group. If you want to come on and talk about your story or you've got something to say, come on on. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, that's on the Facebook group, Plant Medicine Path. That's also on our new website. We just got a new website, another one. The Medicine with the Metals website. That looks phenomenal too. And there's also a link in there with that to be said at the bottom there. You could sign up in that Calendly.
Yep, that's right. medicinewiththemetals.com. It is beautiful. They have done an absolutely incredible job. You can find all of our shows as well as now our new series.
And let's not forget about the Geo Directory. The Geo Directory is something pretty special out there for this community, people that are looking to, promote themselves, seeing what they do and anything. That's an integration coach, being a retreat center. That's something that's really going to be pretty powerful for this community.
Yeah, it's very cool. We are in an introductory period for it now, a soft launch, if you will, but come April, it will launch officially. And there's a lot more to come about that for sure.
Well, let's talk about our guest today. Who is our guest today, Michelle?
Jimmy Castillo is coming on to speak with us today. He has got a couple things going, jennysrose.com. And then he's also featured in a documentary called, I think it's Larry Speaks. It is absolutely incredible. We're going to be showing a clip from it, and we're going to have Jimmy.
I think I've seen that documentary. It's a little bit about
a gentleman with Parkinson's.
Parkinson's, right?
And how plant medicines help him. So
Definitely.
As soon as we get back, we're going to have Jimmy.
Tired of feeling like you're barely holding on? Are you searching online for answers, only to come up with more questions? Looking for ways to feel better and make life more livable? There is a way where you can feel better and take on the world. Transforming your mental health, nourishing both your body and mind. Embark on a journey to lasting happiness and vitality. All powered by the wisdom of Mother Earth.
Today's guest is a pioneer in cannabis compound extraction and the chief science officer for Jenny's Rose. Welcome, Jimmy Castillo.
Yes, hi, I'm Jimmy Castillo. I am the chief science officer of Jenny's Rose. And, I've been working in the cannabis and plant medicine space for about 15 years now.
So tell us a little bit, what got you into the psychedelic space?
So I got into cannabis in 2008. My sister was diagnosed with a 9-pound cyst on her ovary, and they removed it, and she started utilizing or using chemotherapy. And in her chemotherapy process, she was looking for alternatives to help her manage her symptoms. And in doing that, we found that cannabis would be very beneficial for her and help her, through chemo. And it was amazing. It helped her sleep, helped her eat, helped her manage her pain. But one thing it wasn't doing, it wasn't taking away the cancer. And in 2010, she ended up passing. She moved to New York to get experimental treatment, and she ended up passing. And it kind of was what lit a fire underneath me to start researching plant medicine as a whole and trying to see how these plant medicine, especially specifically cannabis, can help heal the body. And during my research, I found all this amazing research here in, on PubMed and a lot of stuff that they were doing outside of our country. I started doing my own research and started helping people one-on-one learn how to use cannabis, how to balance the endocannabinoid system, and basically just use this plant for medicine and not so much in the recreational aspect.
So I'm assuming Jenny is your sister.
She is my sister. Yes.
Okay.
Her name
I'm
is
really
Jennifer
sorry.
Rose.
Jennifer Rose. I'm sorry to
Yeah.
hear about her passing, but what a beautiful thing that has come of it.
Yes, absolutely has. And it's something that I get to talk about a lot. I get to share her story, and she gets to live on through the work that I'm doing here now.
And I'd love to talk a little bit about cannabis. Cannabis has, I can speak for myself and probably for Michelle, it's been a really beneficial factor in my life. But in the beginning, at my young age, I think cannabis was really a detriment to me. It was looked so frowned upon as like a drug and a gateway drug. And, it introduced me to the whole cycle of drug rehabilitations and being in rehabs because of cannabis. And, I think it just looking back, it really had so much benefits for me that were overlooked. And the benefits today just so far outweigh the negative value of this medicine.
Yeah, myself as well. I started consuming cannabis at a young age. My dad was in the Air Force, and he ended up losing his eye, and he used cannabis to manage his pain instead of pharmaceuticals. So I got introduced to it at an early age. But in those earlier days, like you said, I smelled like cannabis, and so friends' parents wouldn't let me hang out with them, or there was a lot of negative connotation around as far as the legal system, so we're always like looking over our shoulder. We had to go buy it from a drug dealer or something on the street, so you were exposed to that. So when I became an adult, I stopped using it, and I started doing what mainstream people allow for us to do, which is drinking. And that was a horrible experience to go through and drink a lot. And the job that I had before was ironworking, so there was a lot of drinking there. And again, there was that negative connotation around smoking cannabis in that aspect, even though all these guys could have used it for the pain and helping them sleep and stuff like that. And it wasn't until my sister got sick that I started my relationship back up with cannabis. And in 2009, I was actually in a really bad motorcycle accident. I had a drunk driver pull in front of me, and I was on my motorcycle, and I hit him between like 45 and 70 miles an hour. I was in the top end of third gear on a crotch rocket, and my bike was in little pieces all over the floor. I was in a tremendous amount of pain, and I started using pharmaceuticals, and but then I was like, well, I'm growing this cannabis, maybe I should start using it myself for my pain management. It was very beneficial in my own personal healing as far as pain management. And then what I found was that, with all the new strains and the accessibility of cannabis, that, it wasn't like just back in the day when you got some skunk and you were just high, you were able to like smoke or use tinctures or creams and utilize that to manage the pain and still be extremely functional. I was able to do a lot of things. I was still able to grow. I was still able to operate the business. I was still able to, just be in a normal headspace and still manage this tremendous amount of pain. So I started using that along on my healing journey as well. And it's been really beautiful. Over the last couple of years, I've readjusted my relationship with cannabis. I mostly use tinctures now. Jenny's, mostly Jenny's Rose. I don't smoke it and consume it like that anymore. Not that there's any problem with it, but I found that, once we balance our endocannabinoid system, and the best way to balance the endocannabinoid system is actually through internal usage. Smoking just kind of like stimulates the CB1 receptors. You get that high effect. It's great for quick pain management, but for actual long pain management throughout the day, the tinctures, the creams and stuff like that are actually more beneficial. So that's kind of where I'm at right now with my relationship with cannabis, but it's been extremely a beautiful relationship nonetheless.
How did you start getting into extracting it and understanding the science behind it?
Yeah, well, it's really interesting. I knew that that smoking it wasn't the best way to utilize it. And, the research that I was doing and trying to actually get my sister cannabis in New York, I knew I had to find some type of way to consolidate that down. And so I started doing extractions, and really the truth is I started getting these downloads on how to do it. I'd be in my lab and I would just get all of these downloads on what I should be doing. And I just listened. I listened to source as it was giving me the information. And, that's how I developed the technology.
Interesting. Because you were talking about cannabinoid systems earlier in this conversation, something we don't really discuss a lot. It's like something we don't discuss at all. And it's a big part of our biochemistry.
Yeah, it's a huge part. And, it's really interesting to see that, like, doctors aren't trained on this. It's not in their textbooks, when it is a vital part to our bodies. It's a vital part to how we function. It balances, once the endocannabinoid system is balanced, it balances all the major functioning systems in our bodies, which is important because at that point, our bodies can start healing itself, because we do have amazing machines, amazing bodies that can re-heal, regenerate, and balance, but we need to give them the right tools. And it seems like what I found is cannabinoids in all forms, not just THC and CBD, but all the minor cannabinoids, the important cannabinoids, CBN, CBG, CBC, and then also the terpenes that help allow them to enter in and function in the body. And when I talk about cannabis and cannabinoids, I like to explain them as a social cannabinoid. And it's funny because cannabis makes us more social sometimes too. So I like to, they really need each other to work the best. When you start isolating them into separate compounds like CBD by itself or THC by itself, it's when it's really not as effective as having all of those cannabinoids together. And that's what we've done with Jenny's Rose. Jenny's Rose is a full plant extract. We don't separate anything out. The technology that I created allows us to activate the cannabinoids at an extremely low temperature. So the temperature that we're able to activate in, which is called decarboxylation, is at 83 degrees Celsius. So at 83 degrees Celsius, nothing's being destroyed. Everything's staying intact while getting that conversion into the cannabinoids that we need.
Very cool. Very interesting. I mean, this whole subject is interesting. We talked this for hours, but how the tides have turned over the last few years with the government, like you just said earlier, it wasn't in the doctor's manual. Well, because it wasn't in the doctor's manual, because Pfizer, Moderna, or any of the other pharmaceuticals wrote that manual. So that's where we are now. And I think we're getting to that point in society that people are tired of being sick and tired because they're telling us to do these things and prescribing us these things that don't work. They just don't. Yeah. So
let's talk about the documentary, because this is absolutely fascinating. Perfect. And this brings into a Western condition, right? Or yes, that they try to treat Parkinson's.
Yes, right.
And this particular clip that we'd love to shows how he takes the cannabis in a I believe it's in a oil form.
Yes.
And within 5 minutes?
Yeah, about 4 minutes.
Absolutely incredible.
Let's show that clip real quick.
Hi, Larry. How are you?
Come in.
Good to see you. How you feeling?
It's been a bit of a rough week.
Really? And the best way to take it is put it under your tongue and rub it in your cheek. Don't do too much. You're going to be asleep all afternoon. You know what you should do?
No.
Don't try to communicate. Just relax. See what happens.
We know from animal experiments that the endogenous cannabinoid system is very important in regulating motor activity, that very type of activity that is impaired in Parkinson's disease. From animal experiments, we also know that boosting certain branches of the endocannabinoid system is helpful in relieving symptoms of Parkinson's. Finally, from anecdotal information, we know that certain patients who smoke marijuana experience relief of their symptoms.
I think you're calmed down.
So quickly.
Isn't that amazing?
He used just a single drop, and his hands afterwards were rock steady, and the dyskinesia left.
It was swing back.
It works most of the time.
In fact, it's. Did you guys eat lunch?
Are you hungry now?
But I am. Actually, I
A person like me could really use marijuana. It makes me pretty angry that I can't get it in my home state.
The number one frustration that I have is knowing that there is this untapped potential that comes from what marijuana is teaching us to generate new medicines and being stuck because of financial issues or political issues. That is extremely frustrating.
We now know that medical marijuana controls dyskinesia, and yet it's not available to us.
Interesting. Yeah. That's just a short clip from there. And you know what I love about that is it shows the person in action. It shows the medicine working. Now, there's no miracle to any of this, but if you have options out there that work for some people, why aren't they being utilized?
And what's really important to know about this this documentary is Larry Smith he's a retired police captain from South Dakota, and it took us almost a year and a half to convince him to come out here and try cannabis. I started working with Parkinson's patients early on, 2011. And that the gentleman who gives him the oil is actually one of my first Parkinson's patients that I started working with. And he came to me extremely rigid. His name is Lou Rubin, and he's a lawyer. Well, he was a lawyer. He passed. But he came into my office like extremely rigid. His family, pretty much thought he was going to die. And, they decided to try medical cannabis. And as soon as we administered cannabis to him, he opened up, like his whole body just opened up, and he started talking to me. We started having these conversations. He ended up started walking 6 miles a day on the beach. He took an 18-day trip to Europe that his doctors told him that he'd never be able to do again. And he became a very strong advocate of medical cannabis. And, he told me he had this friend, Larry Smith, in South Dakota that, was struggling. And, they were going to do this documentary called Ride with Larry. And it was about how important it is for Parkinson's patients to stay active. So Larry was riding across South Dakota. And as they were filming the documentary, we were encouraging him to come out and try cannabis. And finally, he got to a point in his disease that he was at his wit's end. And he was just looking for anything that would help. So they were like, okay, let's give it a shot. And so he came in and we did the initial consultation. Everything that I did back then was when I really wanted to know what cannabinoids were working for what strains, what profiles, what terpenes, would really help each individual person. So he came in, he did an initial consultation with me. And, one of the things that he expressed to me was that he just wanted to be able to smile and show people that he was okay inside, even though he was shaking and stuff like that. And that's why, like, when he first comes out and he's, and he puts this big smile on, that broke me down into tears when I first saw that. And, it was really beautiful to experience that with him and be able to see him, express himself. The sad part about it is, because of the laws and his background, he didn't want to take this medicine back to South Dakota with him. And so he, for 9 years, continued to struggle with Parkinson's, knowing that there was something that could help him out there because he didn't want to break the law. And just recently, his wife played a very powerful role, Betty Smith, in getting medical cannabis legalized in South Dakota. So it was a big win, just happened over the last few years. But now it's, legal there as far as medical cannabis goes. But it was something that, he ended up continue struggling with, even though he knew that there was something that could help him out with.
Right. Makes me really angry what the entities of the political party have done to us in the
Me
last
too.
100 years. It's, you know, I don't know, you're taking such beautiful, helpful medicines away because of monetary things. And we could talk about this forever. I mean, they've really destroyed society by what they're doing. And I think people are really, really waking up. I mean, when you promote alcohol, like as it's just, I could go on, but you do
Yeah, don't get me started.
beautiful, beautiful.
Well, just real quick, where can somebody see that documentary? Because it's
You
amazing.
you can see it on YouTube. If you search Ride with Larry, it's Ride with Larry clip part 3 of 3. And then also too, there's a backstory that I did on Patient Chronicles. If you search that, you can find Patient Chronicles, or you could go to Amazon and you can watch the whole documentary, which is a really beautiful documentary. It's on Amazon. If you're a Prime member, it's free. If you're not, you can pay to watch it.
So here's something that Mark always says, and I just completely agree. It is the difference between cannabis and psychedelics. Cannabis helps with the symptoms.
Yes.
The psychedelics help with what happened, right?
Yes.
It goes to the level.
Like psychedelics, I always say, I mean, you don't see the results from cannabis. You actually see in psychedelics, you see the results. I mean, they're there. Besides visualizing, seeing them, science is there. Everything's there. I mean, there's no reason this space isn't going. It's going where it's going. And amazing work in the cannabis space you're doing. Let's dive into some psychedelics right here, because I think this is what people really are gearing towards. I think it's really important in society right now. Psilocybin, Cambo, Bufo, Boga. I mean, MDMA will be legalized this year. I mean, all these things are coming to the forefront, and there's going to be a lot of irresponsible people out there, a lot, because nobody knows anything about this because we haven't been taught. Me and you and Michelle and the people that are setting foundations, we know about this. So tell us what you're doing in this space to set these foundations.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to touch on what you just said, Mark, because, over the 15 years working with people in the cannabis space and helping them heal their physical body and their endocannabinoid system, the one thing that I started to really notice was that as we're healing our physical body, if we're not healing and we're not addressing the association with the trauma, we're continuously manifesting diseases in other areas. So that's what led me into, to start off with psilocybin, and helping people go on journeys in 2015, was because we were trying to figure out how to help people, especially when we're talking about things like anxiety, depression, PTSD. Cannabis can sometimes trigger that, and exacerbate those symptoms because those traumas are still there, right? Cannabis isn't helping relieve those traumas. It's just helping the symptoms that are associated with those traumas. So, that's kind of how I got, started into psilocybins. And then I found Combo, and what a beautiful medicine. Not the most pleasant medicine to go through.
Not pleasant at all, but beautiful.
But the after effects, being able to release that energy associated with the trauma, to relieve our bodies of that stagnant energy, that stuck energy, if you will. It's so beautiful to see people come out of those experiences and just be so much lighter, so much freer, and being able to start, working on the traumas that they have, or start releasing those traumas that they have.
Yeah, it's mine and Michelle's favorite medicine.
We love the film.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
I mean,
me too.
Nobody likes to throw up, but purging on medicines is a little bit different than your everyday vomit, I guess you want to say.
Yeah, it's not just I'm getting sick from the flu or food poisoning. And it's funny Mark says that, because now we are at the point where we do enjoy that purge, and we encourage each other, and somebody starts purging, we go, yes, do it, because what's happening.
Yes, Combo.
You are releasing. It's beautiful.
Yeah, and then another great medicine, 5-MeO. I think 5-MeO it's got to be approached with some caution. I mean, I truly believe it's that medicine that'll really show you God in maybe a way that might make you a little bit empowered and like crazy. But that's a medicine that really, I think, for me, I think there's a pathway to all these medicines. I think they should be structured in a way of something. I don't know what that looks like yet, but I think 5-MeO is not the one to start off with. I think it's the one after you work towards something, then you need to realize, okay, I'm ready to do this. That's my feeling.
Yeah,
I don't know.
100%. And I always encourage people to start with combo. And I typically won't even serve 5-MeO to someone who hasn't started with combo and worked with that medicine first to release those energies so that they're prepared for that to do the work. And then psilocybins, and then coming into 5-MeO DMT or NDMT. I think those medicines, like you said, should really be approached with caution and structured in a way that you have somebody there that can facilitate that. I discourage 100% of people getting 5-MeO and going out and trying it themselves, or even, I've seen now in the marketplace, like you said, some of these bad things are happening. You see in the marketplace, people trying to proliferate on these 5-MeO DMT pins, and vape pins. And I think that's not the essence of the medicine. And we need to encourage people to stay away from those and to really sit with people who understand the medicine and are trained in these medicines and guide them appropriately.
So you're a facilitator of 5-MeO?
I am. Yeah. I was initiated with the SETI tribe down in Mexico. I did my initiation down there. They're considered the gatekeepers of this medicine. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with them, but they've been using this medicine for a long time. And I had the great opportunity to go down there and sit with the elder shamans and do my initiation on their island. And, it's a medicine that I've been sitting with for quite a long time personally. And something that I've had my own profound experiences with, and something I wanted to guide and share people along this. And I started getting these downloads to serve this medicine, something that I didn't think that I would ever do. But the time came, and I stepped up to the plate and did my due diligence and had the opportunity to go down there and be initiated with that tribe.
Can you tell us about one of your profound experiences with the toad?
Well, I think my very first experience was probably the most profound, just sitting in that light of God, if you will, of being like almost like pet or rubbed by all of this light energy, and just being able to sit there in source and know that we are all one, know that we are all, just energy, and that, there's something else out there than what we have here. I think that was one of the most profound experiences that I had with the medicine. I've had quite a bit, but that one was probably the most profound one.
If I sum it up, I would think 5-MeO is the closest thing to dying and coming back than anything in life. It's just, yes. I think that's really what death feels like. That's why I think it's so powerful.
Yeah. And we hear a lot of like podcasts and stuff like that of people talking about their near-death experiences. Yeah. I personally haven't had any actual near-death experiences where I might have died. But listening to other people explain their near-death experiences, I was like, aha, that's Bufo. That's what you get when you try 5-MeO DMT. You get that experience, but without the risk of actually dying. So you're able to sit in that space and have that experience, and again, sit with source, sit with God, if you will, creator, and be in all that energy, but be able to come back to your body and integrate that into your daily life.
Well, it's such a big experience. Bufo, I mean, all these medicines are big experiences, but personally for me, Bufo was probably my biggest. Mm-hmm. And it can be very disconcerting if you don't integrate it properly.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That is a medicine that really takes, first time, when you do that medicine. I think it's really, don't come after that experience, quit your job, do this, do that. Give yourself a little bit of about a week, come back to reality and say, okay, let's do some changes in my life. Because that's a medicine that I actually think it shows you your source, that it is you at the end of the day.
It's called the
Yes.
God molecule for a reason.
For a reason, isn't it?
It sure is.
Yeah.
And I truly believe that as well, that, you can sit with all of these medicines, but if you don't integrate, and if you don't make those changes in your life, you're just going to be following in this repetitive path of just wanting to come to the medicines to get that escape. So it's really important. We always encourage people. My partner is a plant medicine integration coach, so she helps people also integrate those medicines, and it's a key factor in utilizing any of these medicines. Integrate.
Absolutely, 100%. I mean, these medicines only open the door. They only open the door.
Yes.
There's no fix. These medicines won't fix you. It's that opening the door, making your different thought processes think differently, and changing those thought processes. It's like totally working on your default mode system. Once you start erasing that default mode system, you can live a life that you don't really remember. So now you can live a life.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, absolutely.
So let's talk about how to get started with you and the Jenny Rose and things of that nature. I think that's very interesting. I think a lot of people would be interested in that product.
Well, it sounds like you've got kind of two different things. You've got Jenny's Rose, and
Yes.
and then you do facilitation of Bufo. Do you facilitate Cambo as well?
I do. I facilitate combo psilocybins and 5-MeO DMT, and we hold retreats here in San Diego. I think we have some coming up in Miami shortly here, and so we facilitate all three of those medicines. And like I said, we again, going back to my own personal experiences, I feel like I've had some of the best experiences on Bufo and psilocybin sitting with combo first in that day.
Mm-hmm.
Getting everything cleansed out, getting freed, and then sitting in that medicine. So we always encourage people to do that first, and then go into the other experiences. And just to touch a little bit, I know we haven't really touched on it. And psilocybin, I have such a high reverence for this medicine. A lot of people have used it for recreational aspects and just the tripping and the psychedelic part of it. But really, going internal, we do our ceremonies, we do visual deprivation with sound healing. So you're able to really just go internal and being able to, like you said, see yourself, and see what's going on with yourself, and healing those aspects of yourself in this medicine is just so beautiful. And, again, like cannabis, there was that whole recreational aspect. There's a lot of that in the psilocybin space, but we really encourage people to go in it in a ceremonial form, taking the time and just going deep within yourself.
Mm-hmm. Let's dive into psilocybin because it's our favorite subject. It's what we do.
Okay.
It's what we believe in. It's what we think where society is really going to gravitate to, because we've been so terrified by these psychedelics. I mean, the government has terrified us that,
Yes.
The egg in the frying pan doesn't fucking exist. Okay. We know what
Right.
exists. We know what exists. We know that. We know how these medicines work. Psilocybin is a magic connector. And
Yes.
Michelle can explain a lot about this. I mean, we're really into psilocybin. We see this. It's going to be on people's shelves in the next 5 years.
Yes.
Most people.
Yes.
And I don't understand the recreational aspect of this medicine. I don't think I ever will, because I've never utilized it like that.
Let me touch on that a little bit. So
Sure.
when I was in high school and college, right, we used shrooms. We would go see the Grateful Dead. We would go to concerts and eat mushrooms. I'd never heard of using them in a ceremonial or sacred way until I came to plant medicines. Now, people come to psilocybin for for ceremonial use and with intention. But sometimes I think it's okay for the intention to let loose, to maybe put this aside and just have a good time. I'm not talking about going to a bar and drinking and using mushrooms, but using mushrooms. We don't drink. We don't believe in using psilocybin and drinking and that sort of thing by any means. But I
Yes.
don't think a ceremony always has to be dark, deep. We can learn through laughter. We can learn lessons through fun and having music and things like that. So recreationally, going to a bar, eating mushrooms, no.
No.
but setting the intention of it doesn't have to be just, let's show me healing through light and love is okay too.
I agree with that.
I do as well. And that's one of the beautiful things about mushrooms. And I have to tell you guys, while I was on my path, like I told you, I was in this motorcycle accident and I suffered from severe PTSD. I didn't know it at the time. I just thought I was like, a little nervous to be in cars. Well, I was really nervous to be in cars, but I would see brake lights and like my whole accident would replay in my head. And, a friend of mine who's a medicine man was like, Jimmy, you got to try psilocybin. And I looked at him like he was dead crazy. I was like, I'm not hallucinating. I don't want any psychedelic hallucinations. People die from this stuff, like all these things that I was programmed, but I went home and I did my research and I was, the efficacy back then, 2014, was huge. Even the safety around, mushrooms is huge. Less people go to the hospital for mushrooms than they actually do cannabis. And I was like blown away. Like, I was like, wow, why haven't I heard this before? So I ended up going on this journey that he took me on. And it wasn't a visual deprivation. It was kind of like, just opening up and, experiencing that. And the next day I was in a car comfortably, and I was so blown away that one journey, one experience freed me from this thing that I had been dealing with since 2009 to 2014, and, it literally freed me and saved my life, because it was so debilitating not being able to get in a car and drive, and, going back to this whole programming, they programmed us to think that these medicines are so dangerous and bad for us and we're going to lose our mind and stuff like that. When in the reality is it's actually healing our mind.
So
it's
true.
Creating new neural pathways. It's
true.
helping people heal. Oh my gosh, it's just wow.
Remember when they used to tell us we can't create new neural pathways, we can't regenerate our brains, we cannot? Listen.
Yes.
I'm a lot smarter than I was 10 years ago, buddy.
100%.
So, I know psychedelics is doing me some justice. So, but,
yes.
It's so funny. We talk about death and we talk about these things, but nobody's ever died from psilocybin, ever. There's not one history or case. And I don't ever think anybody's ever died from cannabis. It's probably really fun. And if I haven't even looked at the psychedelic space, I don't think there's too many deaths in that, unless it comes to those ayahuasca experiences where you've lied or a big iboga experience where you've had iboga is a big medicine. I've been in that medicine for 40 hours before. I know what that medicine does, and it's not for the faint of heart. But that medicine right there, that's the game changer. Iboga, the game changer. For sure. Yeah. If you want to reset your whole reset, there's nothing better.
A lot of the dangers come from utilizing pharmaceuticals along with these medicines.
Absolutely.
And so if you're not using pharmaceuticals, which are the poison in the bucket, all these medicines are relatively safe.
They sure are.
Absolutely. Well, something I'd also like to touch on really quickly, because we know that psilocybin is coming legal, right? It's coming this year, next year, within the next however many years. So, and when Mark says it's going to be on everybody's shelf, this could either be a good thing or a bad thing. We don't want it to be on people's shelf that's also got chemicals in it. And there's going to be two ways this is going to go, right?
We don't want the MAPS way. At least we don't feel the MAPS way is the right way. MAPS is a great, MAPS is a great, what they're doing is great. But, like this new one they come out with the psilocybin and 5-MeO together. I can't even say the name. It's so
Silomoxil.
Why are we even doing this? Why are we creating things? Nature has given us these medicines. And what baffles me the most is we have sent scientists to the jungle, is what we've done, to investigate what the monkeys are eating, what the animals are eating, what they're all eating, to create these medicines. But yet we go and we recreate these things with junk and bullshit and stuff. And it just baffles me. And we fall for their bullshit. We fall for it. It's just such colluded. But people are waking up, and they're waking up very quickly.
On that note, I really want to acknowledge you guys for this platform that you guys have created, because I think it's extremely important that we continue to educate people on exactly what you're talking about, because people don't know, right? And they get caught up in this white lab coat type of situation, and they think that, oh, well, it's okay for us. We're seeing a proliferation of ketamine coming around. I'm not going to even get into that, but it's very important that we leave nature the way that it is, and we utilize what the universe and what source has given us here, and the way that they've given it to us, and not switch it around, not put these other chemicals in there, not do all this other funny stuff to it, and just use it. It's perfect the way that it is. Cannabis is perfect the way that it is. Mushrooms is perfect the way that it is. 5-MeO is perfect the way that it is. Ayahuasca is perfect the way that it is. We don't need all this other side stuff.
We don't.
If you want to add some functional mushrooms into your recipe, please do it. Cordyceps, turkey tail, lion's mane, they're all beautiful medicine.
Mm-hmm.
A little cacao. Our psilocybins are made out of Guatemalan cacao. With Guatemalan cacao, it helps with the digestive system, digesting these mushrooms, but they don't need any added chemicals. They don't need to be mixed with MDMA and this and that. They're perfect the way that they are.
We agree.
We totally agree. And, I think people are agreeing more and more, and they're seeing that Western science doesn't work. This whole Western development they developed to keep us sick, to keep their corporations better, has been, people are waking up. And I keep saying that on every podcast. I think if you have a nice big psychedelic journey, I don't think there's any way to not understand this. Once you see this, there's no way to not unsee it. There's just no way. So let's talk about some other things. So we talked about, Jenny, where you can get your product from, which I think is beautiful. Now, can that be product by anybody? Or was it?
What if they're in an illegal state?
Illegal again.
Yes.
So stupid.
Here we go. Jenny's Rose is only in California. We are working on a CBD line for the rest of the state. For the rest of the country. But right now it is only available in California, unfortunately. We're hoping this, changes really fast, as well as federal legalization opens up and those type of things, but it's all baby steps right now as far as that goes.
Definitely. Mm-hmm. Well, we'd love to try a bottle of that for sure.
For sure. Jimmy, how can somebody find you as a facilitator?
Yes. So there's a couple ways I have Instagram. And then we also have, you can email us. You can email me at Jenny's Rose, Jimmy@jennysrose.com, higher frequency at Gmail. Is that it? No. I'm sorry. Higher frequencies 888 @gmail.com. And then I will be on your guys' platform pretty soon as well. So they'll be able to find me on your guys' beautiful platform that you guys are creating for facilitators.
That was my next question.
Yes, we're
directory.
Yes, we are. We're working on getting ourselves on there as well, and so people will be able to find us with you guys pretty soon as well. I'm also on Facebook, and those are pretty much the platforms that we're working off of right now.
Well, Jimmy, thank you very much for setting some of these foundations. Thank you for being out there and understanding the education and the information part of this medicine, because I think it's very important to educate people that these medicines work and they're safe.
And breaking that stigma, right? Larry himself was a police officer. You said he was a sergeant,
a police captain.
A captain. So it took him a year and a half with those symptoms to come use it because of the conditioning. Thank you so much for coming on and speaking with us today. I hope you'll come back.
Thank you for having me. It was
Thanks,
beautiful.
Jimmy.
Yes,
Thanks
I will.
for coming on our platform today, too. Thanks for going to be joining up with the Plant Medicine Path Directory. The Geo Directory is going to be a pretty big thing. I think it's going to be a beautiful thing, and I know it's going to be a beautiful thing for all this community that's looking to find value. Connection. We need to find ourselves again. We need to find ourselves, find our source. Everybody needs that. Thank you, my friend. Thank you for being a guest on our show today.
Thank you.
What a great conversation with Jimmy today.
Yeah, it really was. That's another one of those medicines that have been so stigmatized for so long. But, once they found a way to start monetizing on it, what a bread and butter it's become for the government, huh?
Well, cannabis is an incredible medicine.
Absolutely.
It is so misunderstood, and there's so much ignorance around it, but it's an incredible medicine. And the documentary Riding with Larry is a beautiful documentary. It's about a guy with Parkinson's disease. We showed a clip of it during the segment, and it is amazing to watch him in 4 minutes go from shaking and barely being able to speak to completely calm and being able to speak. And that's something that a Western medicine cannot help him with.
Absolutely cannot. And just every week we see these same things. We see these same benefits with so many disabilities, like Parkinson's, such a simple process. My aunt has Parkinson's. She's been suffering forever and she knows cannabis will work, but she's been stigmatized to not want to do this. So it's really sad. These are the big takeaways we're taking away from a lot of these podcasts lately, how people are stigmatized and how they fear these medicines so much. It's crazy.
That's why we're doing this. That is why we're doing this, because we want to get the word out there and we want people to understand. And, I always put it on all of our posts, rethink what you know, because it's not true. It's not true.
Absolutely. Well, I guess we're going to go to a nice new clip of our nice
I'm
psychedelic
very
stories.
excited to see
I
this.
love
Shelley
these.
McLeod is her name.
Yeah, I love these psychedelic stories. They're getting the word out there from real people. We're not actors. We're not paid. We are real people. And this is part of what we're doing. These psychedelic stories, they're amazing.
Hi, my name is Shelley McLeod, and this is my psychedelic story. I was raised in the 80s. I'm a Gen X baby, and I was very much under the Nancy Reagan Just Say No, and I took it very seriously. I did not partake in smoking. I did not partake in drinking, marijuana, any sort of substances, whether they were legal or not. When I was 18, I went to the doctor and I was diagnosed with depression. And it was like the first time I felt I was somebody. Because starting at age 10, I had a school teacher who told my family I was fat, actually used those words, fat. And it actually began this insane diet culture, diet obsession, food addiction from the age of 10 until I was 47 years old. So at 18, when I went to the doctor and the doctor said, "You're depressed, let me give you some medication," I was so excited because I had an identity. I felt like somebody's listening to me. Somebody is going to make me feel happy, because I was not happy. I was always in my head, spinning with anxiety, obsessing over what I was eating, if I looked okay, if basically I was going to be accepted, not only by my peers, but also from my parents, like ultimately my mom. I was just looking for her love and affection. But again, this is the 80s and 90s, which was the era of Baywatch and the era of Pamela Anderson and continual just dieting and jazzercise, Jane Fonda. I didn't see women in the gym as far as like building muscles and stuff. It was all just about being thin. Nothing discussed about being happy. So in my 20s, I went away to college and I had a whole new world open up to me. I was still about 330 pounds and I was determined to find somebody to love me. And so it was the dawn of the internet, brand new. You could get dating websites. And so I specifically typed in big, beautiful women and men seeking big, beautiful women. And I found a gentleman near where I was going to college in the Bay Area. And we had a really wonderful relationship for about 7 years. But what I found was that a lot of my trauma from my childhood growing up, even generational trauma before I was even born, kept seeping into the relationship. And I just found all these faults in others, never wanting to look at myself and do anything for myself. And so again, I was still involved in the diet culture. I was still obsessed with just food. By now, I discovered the Atkins diet. And so I was low carbing. And apparently, I don't remember a lot of this, but my friends from back in the day remind me, I was beyond obsessed with counting my carbohydrates and making sure I could only have 20 carbs a day and just having this crazy diet obsession, which now I'm able to reflect back on. I didn't have joy in my life. It was really revolved around food. What made it really interesting was then I would go and binge. I believe I binged food several times a week in secret. Occasionally, I would also started experiencing bulimia, so the binging and the purging, but I would just binge food to suppress my emotions. So not only was I taking the SSRIs, but here I am binging food and suppressing my emotions, and nobody knew the secret, nobody. And so I went through the dot-com crash in 2001, and I was at a crossroads. I really didn't know what I was doing with my life, with my career, with anything. I decided to go back to school for nursing because nursing was a steady, stable profession, and it gave me yet another identity. So first I had the identity of a depressed fat girl, but now I would have the identity of, hey, I'm a registered nurse and a depressed fat girl. I was just looking for anything to spark joy in my life because I thought I had to find it outside of myself. So I went on and became a registered nurse and was in that profession for 18 years at the bedside. First starting out in the emergency room because I got such a thrill and such an excitement from helping people, from being a part of something, being part of a system, being able to run insane traumas, navigate emotions, but really I wasn't navigating them because it would occur and I noticed I didn't take the time to provide self-care for myself or even any kind of debriefings. The debriefings I would have with my staff were based on, hey, let's go behind the dumpster at the liquor store and let's just drink beer and just say, wow, that was a night and we survived. And that was how we had our camaraderie. But over time, I just felt heavier and heavier and heavier. I changed medications multiple times. I also had gotten involved in a new relationship, and that was not going very well. And I had a child. And as that relationship was falling apart, I recognized I can't be alone as a fat person. This was about 2009. There still was not the inclusion acceptance that I see now. And so I made the decision to pay out of pocket and go have weight loss surgery. And so that's exactly what I did. I went and had the vertical sleeve, and it was great. It was super successful. I did extremely, extremely well until I recognized I still was not processing my emotions. I still was not processing my food addiction, my various addictions, because once I had the weight loss surgery, other things started occurring in my life. I separated from my son's father, and then I got involved in a new relationship in my thin body. And so here I am, a whole new identity as this thin woman, but I'm still carrying around the shadows and the ghosts and all of the issues I had when I was heavy. And what it was shame. I was carrying around this enormous amount of shame. And so as I wasn't able to shake the shame, I kept taking the medications the doctors would give me. I did some talk therapy, but I noticed that my talk therapy was very much trauma dumping. I also was not realizing that the profession I was in, specifically working in the emergency room, and the constant traumas that I was encountering day in and day out, the constant emotions, the highs and the lows. Yes, they were giving me super highs and I felt amazing, but the lows were low. And I was drinking, I was taking pills. I would get prescriptions from my doctor and the pill bottle would be out within 3 days and I wouldn't know. I just wouldn't even realize that I had taken all these meds. And the drinking just got to the point where I was blackout drunk every single night. And I just wasn't progressing in any way. And basically what happened was I went to rehab a few times and I recognized I needed to start getting things together in my life, but I was still in the shame space. I feel the Western profession really does promote more shame, especially every time I visited my doctor. And if I tried to express to them what was going on with my sobriety, it was literally just keep going to AA, keep going to AA. But secretly, I wasn't resonating with anything going on in AA because, again, it felt like a shame space all the time. And so COVID hit in March of 2020, and I was on the front line. My hospital was going through a strike with the nurses, and I was in administration. And so I had to actually work the front line in ways with teams, with just in ways I can never describe to anyone except for those who have been within it, especially when it first started. And so as I worked throughout the profession, or throughout the whole pandemic, and recognized just the lack of resources, the lack of support, the constant fear, the constant shame, not only within myself, but then the leadership within the hospital, everyone that I was working with, it was a constant fear-based state. My drinking became out of control. My eating became out of control. The 100 pounds I had lost and maintained for almost 10 years, I gradually gained almost all of it back. And I just knew there had to be a different way out. Nothing was helping with the medications. I was doing what the doctors were telling me to do, but I wasn't feeling any of this. I didn't feel anything. I just was checking a box and being a robot and trying to survive because I was trapped. I was literally in such a brain fog. I asked my doctor for ketamine therapy, and he said, you have to be suicidal for ketamine therapy. And I literally asked him, do you not read the checkoff list I give you every time I visit? I'm literally telling you I'm the worst of the worst. Just because I'm not telling you I don't have a plan doesn't mean I'm not in those energetics of being just not wanting to get out of bed. And so it was at that time I just decided to take radical responsibility for my own mental health. And I had known by reading, I've always been on the forefront of different holistic practices. And I knew psilocybin was something that could help with alcohol and anxiety and a whole bunch of other things. I started researching this, going and taking basically a magic mushroom trip up in Oregon. And at the same time, I started using marijuana. And when I started using the marijuana, my anxiety and my desire to drink went away in a way no medication, no pills I was addicted to ever did. And I finally started feeling more grounded and in my body. And as I was able to start to be in my body and have this awareness and give myself the permission to be in my body and not such in a programmed way, I began to feel back as myself. Shelley, the woman, Shelley, the little girl who's loving and needs nurturing and has love to give to others. And so as I really just felt just a relaxation that I didn't know I needed, I started opening my mind to going up to Oregon and taking a trip, literally. And so that's what I did for my birthday on January 14th, 2022. I flew up to Oregon and I took a journey with psilocybin with 5 grams, and it profoundly saved my life. And there were many things that happened on that trip, but the biggest takeaway was that I was the light. I was the love. I have everything I need inside of me. I am very well supported by everybody. And it was once I saw all of that and I came home and I was so much more grounded. I had energy I'd never had. I had memories dropping in that I didn't realize that during my time in the emergency room for 18 years, I had suppressed because I was in such survival mode with what is now known as chronic PTSD. None of my doctors noticed this. None of my doctors even noticed that I also had ADHD, which was preventing me from my mind properly processing things. And it was just because I was in such a heightened state of anxiety and pretending. I was also very hyper independent female, pretending everything was always okay because I couldn't let anybody see that it wasn't okay. It was such a shame factor. And so now it's been almost 2 years and I take a trip, so to speak, probably every 2 to 3 months, like a really large dose. And I get grounded, and it allows me to see the different areas of my life to work on, the different areas of my life to love myself, to forgive myself. A lot of times when you hear about addiction stories, you hear about all the tough times and whatnot, but when I'm taking my big journeys, I'm giving myself the love and compassion that I never had. I'm providing that in ways that I'm able to reparent myself, that I'm able to feel and be and not be ashamed to be a crying mess on the floor. Some of the biggest things is I don't have the repeating patterns in my head from all the traumas that I would see from the emergency room. I don't have the repeated bad things that were always happening, the emotions that people were projecting. I know how to process my own emotions and also provide support for others, because I got to the point where I could not provide support to anyone. I mean, I barely could provide it for myself. I also am able to spark creativity again, because the funny thing is I never wanted to be a nurse. I only went into nursing because it was stable. I majored in art. I was a studio artist. I had a large 4x5 camera and I would tote it around, and I was doing body dysmorphia projects 30 years ago when, like I said, I did not see anybody overweight represented anywhere, and I was representing myself. But then the circumstances happened and I wasn't able to maintain the nervous system. You know, I had other people's stories in my ear. I had the diet trauma. I had, I'm not good enough. Just all of these different things like imposter syndrome and whatnot, which now I'm able to face, and I'm able to help myself to then appear as my most authentic and no longer mask, no longer be on SSRIs, no longer be listening to the psychiatrist who just want to continually put me in a box, but instead be a part of communities that accept me for who I am. Communities that when I let them know, like, hey, I eat every 2 to 3 hours and I eat protein. And they accept me, because I've actually also had to reparent, relearn, deprogram all of the dieting that I had since 10 years old, because it was all wrong. In fact, now I will eat certain foods and my body will immediately get ill, whether I get nausea, whether I get tingles in my throat, sniffles in my nose. Those are all signs from my body letting me know that, hey, this probably isn't a great thing to be eating anymore. As far as like alcohol and my addiction to that, I physically cannot even drink or smell alcohol. I have an adverse reaction to it. And the same goes for really low vibrational food. The food that I would go and binge on in the bathroom or in my bedroom all by myself, I physically can no longer eat. I've been able to just really do deep healing into the shadows of why I chose substances, why I just didn't know any better. I didn't know any better, and it's the same within the nursing profession, because it's a dirty little secret. Nobody wants to talk about cumulative caretaking trauma, and that's the repeated events, the repeated traumatizations over and over and over again. And nobody wants to talk about it. And the facility I was at, we did not do debriefings. Like I said, we went behind the dumpster and we drank beer. But now I'm here to tell my story and to let others know that there's ways out of their mental illness, there's ways out of their depression, there's ways out of their anxiety, and most importantly, there's ways out of their addiction. There's ways to completely reprogram and go about living in a different way that you may not even think is possible. And that's why I love psychedelics. For 18 years, I saw the same people come in and out, in and out, in and out with their addictions, with their mental health issues. And I didn't see the progress. I didn't see them getting well. And now I see it. It comes from within. It doesn't come from following all these rules and whatnot. It comes from within. It comes from getting down to the reparenting of things that occurred to you as a child. It's the compassion you give yourself. It's the compassion that you, and the love that you radiate to others. It's a whole entire mind, body, spirit. And this is why I'm so passionate about psychedelics. And this is my story.
What a great story, huh?
Shelly McLeod.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to have her on and talk to her.
Real stuff right there.
So here's what stuck out to me. There's so many things about that stuck out to me. These medicines bring you to your most authentic self. They bring you to who you really are, who you're supposed to be. And when she said, after however many years, I suddenly realized I don't even want to be a nurse.
So many things were, that was such a powerful, true story of how this path works. She explained it so well. And then her being in this space of that healing for so many people. And then how she said it at the end, psychedelics. She loves psychedelics because of what they've done to her. Pretty powerful story right there.
Very powerful. And how she started it out by being a child of the 80s and,
Yeah.
and the Reagan saying,
Yeah.
just say no, and being so conditioned to that. And
But you see one thing, Michelle, you see how she gets it. All of a sudden, she gets it. She gets what these people have been, we have to understand they're trying to keep us sick. And that's all they're trying to do. Because if they don't keep us sick, what else do they have?
what is the saying that we saw? A patient healed is a customer lost.
Yeah. So, I mean, really, really rethink what you know. Really look at these. These are human beings. These are people. And these medicines work. So let's go on. Let's move forward. I mean, there's going to be a lot of these great psychedelic stories.
And you can catch them on our YouTube channel,
Yeah,
our
for
beautiful new
sure.
YouTube channel, Medicine with the Metals, and catch all of these short stories. They're incredible.
Yeah, we have a huge outpouring of interest in these things. So we have a calendar link on our website there so you can sign up, and our producers will get with you and, they'll tell your story. People want to hear these.
People want to hear, and we say it all the time. When we first started being interested in medicine, scouring the internet, looking for people to talk about what was it like? What was it really like? Not some bullshit story, but what really happened. And this is where you're going to hear that. These medicines bring you back to your most authentic self.
Yeah, they really do. They're pretty important, pretty amazing. So, more and more people like her come on, the more and more stories are shared. It's just such a beautiful thing. It's what we need to keep going in this country. This society as a nutshell is pretty broken. I mean, we're pretty broken as a society. Every time there's something else going on there. I mean, we're just infiltrated every day with negativity. Why? How are we not stuck in this loop? Crazy what they're doing to us.
We're here to break the ignorance and get the message out there. So you can find us Medicine with the Metals, the plantmedicinepath.com. Let's talk about some of our affiliates. Mama Dose, they're doing some amazing things. I've heard that they have got a special going for 2024 for the whole month of January. Buy one, get the next for $24.
Any product in their shop, and that's an amazing company there. They're doing some pretty good things, cutting edge, and working in a gray area, but they're doing what they're supposed to be doing right now.
Giving people access to these medicines.
Absolutely. And let's talk about that geo directory again. That platform, that geo directory, we can't talk about it more. I mean, it's going to be the framework for people looking for these medicines. I mean, there'll be courses on there. You can book retreats on there. You can find integration coaches. I mean, it's just going to be a plethora of great information, what we need.
Roots to Recovery Geo Directory. You can find it on the plantmedicinepath.com, mamadose.com. We've got our gummy
might change
girls.
that name, by the way, Root to Recovery. We'll talk about that later.
It's been a great show.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks so much. Have
Have
a
a good
beautiful day.
Ciao.